Hey, okay, let's talk chapter 5, which is all about asking questions. What's really cool is that a couple of years ago, I was at a conference and I met this brilliant teacher who was doing a session, and her big thing was about how you should always ask a question in answer to a student question. So she was kind of onto this stuff already. And I just love that this was kind of like ahead of the curve, if you will, or she was using these thinking classroom strategies. So basically, what Lilith is saying in chapter 5 is that you want to focus on how you answer student questions. Because if I set up a thinking classroom and I implement all this stuff, if as soon as a student answers a question, I answer it for them, then I stop the thinking and I basically just take everything I've done and just throw it away. So, in order to kind of get a benefit out of thinking classrooms, you have to be really careful about the types of questions that you answer. So students will answer basically three types of questions. Proximity questions, which means you're close by. So they're just going to ask you stop thinking questions, which means that they're tired of doing hard work and want to stop thinking, or actual legit questions. So proximity questions are questions that students ask just to reestablish the role of student and teacher, because a teacher is asked anywhere up to 400 to 600 questions a day. And so students will ask questions just because they think that's what is part of the like game of learning and the game of being a student, is to ask these questions like, am I on the right track? So we're supposed to do this. I need to answer these questions. Like, you know what I'm talking about? And they ask them just because you happen to be nearby while you're circulating around. So these questions actually don't need to be answered at all. And they take away from the thinking classroom. So the best way to deal with proximity questions are: one, is you can turn it around and say, did you ask the members of your group already? Or two, just smile, nod, and walk away. And that's kind of the answer to a lot of these things, is to just smile, nod, and walk away. Make eye contact, smile, nod, walk away. The stop thinking questions are the ones like, is this right? Is this going to be on the test? Do I need to learn this? We get this a lot in secondary because kids are so focused on like, what exactly do I need to know? Because they are good at playing the game of school. So these ones, again, shouldn't be answered, and just like smiled, move away, and then just walk away. There are cases where I know that I would have students, for example, like on the spectrum, or students that if I didn't answer the question, they would like flip out. So you kind of have two plays to it. You can answer their question with another question. So, for example, you could say, like, isn't that interesting? Can you find something else out for me? Can you show me how you did that? Is that always true? Why do you think that? Like, does that make sense? Have you tried another like approach to it, or another group of ideas? So those are the kind of like answering a question with a question to kind of get them going and get them keep moving along, and to kind of make them feel heard, and so they don't feel ignored and like insulted when you walk away. And so then the last is like that 10% of questions, which he's going to go into a different chapter about like how to give appropriate hints in order to not give away the thinking. So as you're trying to suss out what is actually good questions versus what is just asking questions to make me look like a student, the best way to do it is just to smile and nod and walk away. Because a lot of times if we ask questions, we end up inevitably giving hints, and then we end up doing the thinking for them. So the best method is just smile, nod, and walk away. Which I know is going to be super hard for me to do because I am the type of person that always answers their questions. So that's going to be a really big shift for me, is to just be like silent and not ask or not answer any of their questions, and purposely not put myself in position to have questions asked of me. So, for example, he recommends that in the first 4 minutes after assigning a task, do not walk around the room, because that will encourage proximity questions while they're getting going and stop the thinking about like, what do I need to do right now? So that is one of the things, is to not circulate right away, which is going to be also really weird for me because I always circulate. So I'm going to have to come up with some kind of like busy thing to make me look or like concentrate on something so that I don't circulate right away, because that's something that I will do, which is not beneficial. And sorry, I'm just looking at my book because I highlighted a ton from this chapter, and I just wanted to make sure that I got everything. Last thing is, if you want to, after 2 weeks, you can tell the students about how there's 3 different types of questions, and this is why you're like smiling and nodding and walking away. They recommend don't doing it at the beginning because the students perceive that as you asking permission to behave that way. But if you tell them after 2 weeks and kind of explain the reason why that norm exists, then students really liked that peek behind the curtain about teaching and stuff like that. So that's something that you can do if you want to. But anyways, yes, answer questions with a question.